Yeah. So kind of what I was thinking is my recording's already running, kind of just free flowing. You know, if you want me to edit something in or out, I can start it at any point just for fun, and then I just want to chat like we're doing. I've done this a few times with some other musicians around here in Wisconsin, mostly just guys I follow on social media that are like
Yeah.
about my age and similar interests, and totally dig it. So
So is this something that you decided you just wanted to do kind of as a passion project, something that you thought would be fun or
yep, absolutely, totally.
awesome?
So yeah, I like meeting people, like talking to people, kind of sorting out my path. What am I interested in? And I really enjoy talking to people. So in really any field, uh,
Yeah.
I just wanted to start reaching out to people and doing that. So yeah, totally, it's a passion project. Passion project. Yep.
So you said you're a musician. I'm interviewing you at this point, but
No, that's fine.
are you a songwriter or did you just play an instrument? What do you do
Yeah, I grew up.
musically?
I grew up playing drums. My dad's a college professor of music, teaches jazz out in South Dakota. So
Okay.
I grew up just doing jazz drums from like the age 9 to about 21 or 20. Like
Yeah.
that's totally my thing. Just straight drums, straight drums. I always secretly kind of wanted to get into singing and stuff, but I was
Mhm.
killing it behind set, doing everything I needed to. Totally did that. But once I started going to college and living outside of my house where I had all my set and everything, I picked up guitar and then just started singing about 2 years ago. So
Okay.
now I'm writing a lot for fun, putting stuff on TikTok. I know I've tagged you in a couple of things just for fun,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and doing that just here in Wisconsin. So yeah, I guess you could say I'm a songwriter now.
Dang, is it still pretty cold in Wisconsin right now?
Today it hit 60 degrees. It's the warmest it's been
That's
since
gotta feel good.
warmest it's been since
Yeah.
December, November. I mean, it's amazing. But
Hmm.
you, sir, are in Texas, I can see,
Well,
or at least
actually,
your
in
flag.
Nashville. Yeah, I live in Nashville. I've lived here for about 4 years, and originally from Austin, Texas. And I don't know how many Texans you've met in your life, but we are not bashful about being from Texas. We're
Love
really
that.
proud of our state. So I carry it with me everywhere I go. I've got Texas tattooed on my arm. I've got flags all over my house. It's a cult of personality.
Totally. I worked in a camp outside of San Antonio for a summer,
Oh, really?
which was neat. Yeah.
What camp was it?
Camp Stewart.
Okay. Never heard of that
Um,
one, but I've heard of a
and
few in that area.
there is a guy who does music there. His name is Zach Pohl. I guess he was the last guy interviewed, if you will, who
Yeah.
singer songwriter, works at the camp full time, doing just teaches music.
Huh.
A guy I met earlier this semester, Jordan Blanchard. He's traveled down to Nashville actually a couple of times.
Okay. I think I know
So
that name. I definitely know Jordan Blanchard's name.
yeah, check out one of my earlier videos. I just talked to him, met him here in Wisconsin. He's from like Eau Claire, Wisconsin or something.
Oh,
So
cool.
from my area, and he just happened to wander into me at one of the bars downtown.
Oh,
And
wow.
sure enough, we got together the next day and started writing music. And
Huh.
it was totally random and super awesome. He said, "Yep, he travels to Nashville sometimes," and so I bet you guys will run into each other.
Yeah, it's definitely a name I've heard somewhere. I'll have to look into him and check out the video y'all did together.
Yeah, we on Instagram. There's just a clip of us just screwing around, nothing official.
Yeah.
But then the interview, yeah, yeah, 2 weeks ago we did that. So
Yeah. Well, man, my San Antonio, dude, I have a music video, my song 17. The whole music video, or at least half of it, takes place in San Antonio. There's a bunch of clips of me and a girl that I went on a date with when I was actually 17. It's the girl that the song is about. Um,
I
and we
listened to
have
the
all these
song.
clips of us on the Riverwalk in San Antonio on that date when we were 17. She filmed the whole thing. And then, like 7 years later, I was like, hey, do you still have all that footage? Because I think I might need it for a music video. And she let me use it.
Wow, that's a crazy
Pretty
story.
wild.
That
Yeah.
that's actually crazy. No, I've been on the Riverwalk down there a couple of times, and I've actually been on some dates down there. So that's a really cool area.
Yeah. I was telling somebody
Um,
yesterday, we were talking about the movie Miss Congeniality, and they filmed some of that movie, that scene where she's like, the perfect date is like April 25th or whatever, or May 20th. I can't remember what the date is, but it's like a funny scene in that movie. They filmed it on the Riverwalk, and I remember there's a clip in that music video of her and I reenacting that movie scene right where they shot the original movie.
I'll
So
have
the
to
Riverwalk
link
set
your
up in
video.
conversation.
I'll have to link your video when I if I publish anything here. I'm looking at your channel now. I have listened to the song, because I've been following you and seeing what you're putting out. It's the song 17,
Yeah.
and that's on
I
YouTube
was
or
grateful that she let me use that footage, man. She's in like a committed relationship, and I was like, "Are you sure you want all this? Some guy that's from your past wrote a song about you. Do you really want him releasing a song with you in the video?" And she was like, think it'll be all right. It'll be fun.
Wow. Interesting. Is it
It'll work
17
out.
just 17 just the letters, or do you spell 17 out? I don't remember.
Spell it out.
Okay.
I'm a big spelling guy,
There we
man.
go. I see it. Yeah.
Letters.
Very cool.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna switch chairs. I'm sitting in the noisiest chair on earth. Give me 1 second.
Fair enough. Oh, there it is. Here, I'll pull it up on my screen. You probably won't be able to see it, but I'll play some of your 17 video just so
Yeah.
they can see. Yeah, there's the background. You're right. I see the river walk
Yep.
and all that. That's very cool. Yeah, it's a beautiful area down there.
I love it.
No, I'll be honest. I think I got food poisoning because there's all those ducks that walk around down on the river
Yeah.
walk.
Just right down
And
the river.
it's kind of gross because they're like climbing on the tables and stuff where we're eating. And I
Yep.
think I got sick one time from that. I don't know what else it would have been from, but both my dad and I had an upset stomach like right after eating there. And we were like, either the food was bad or it's just the ducks that walk where we eat. Just totally random. I don't know. But
I don't know who's in charge of like corralling those ducks or if anybody is, but they really do just kind of do whatever they want. They don't listen to anybody. They take food off your table from you when you're not looking. They don't care.
totally, dude. Total thieves. But the food was good down there. I liked it. What's your favorite part of San Antonio then? You spent some time down there. Is it the Riverwalk or the Alamo or
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing, and growing up in Austin, it's about an hour and a half from San Antonio. The main reason we would go to San Antonio was for Six Flags. That was almost always why I was in San Antonio, and then we would do something like an evening dinner on the Riverwalk. So I don't know if I would consider myself an in-the-know local. I think somebody that's from San Antonio would think, oh, he only knows the tourist attractions, and that's true because I pretty much only ever made day trips there for Six Flags and the Riverwalk. But I used to love going to the Ripley's Museum and stuff like that. There's clips of that in the music video too.
I saw that. Yep. The big kind of giant, like what's it, the tallest man in the world? I think they have
Yep.
a replica of him there that you can stand next to.
That was like a face my fears kind of moment. I remember my parents bringing me there when I was a kid. And there's the part where you go from like the regular wax museum to the haunted house part of it. And I was terrified as a little kid just of the regular wax figures, like just Abraham Lincoln and like all the typical like Sylvester Stallone, Rocky. That was scaring me. And then I finally got to the point where I was okay with it. And I was like, all right, they're not real. I can do this. And then we got to the scary part and it was over for me. And my dad, I remember there's this part where there's like 8 doors and all of them have jump scares in them, except for one of them, which is the door you're supposed to go through. And my dad saw the right door and I knew he saw the right door, but he kept opening all the other ones just to freak me out. And I remember just this like core memory of being absolutely terrified.
Oh no.
Revisiting that with a girl that I was trying to impress in my teen years, and I had to act brave even though there was that inner childhood fear in me.
Oh, I know exactly the museum you're talking about. I don't remember. I don't think that attraction was there, but I've been to that haunted house section right down there.
Essentially, my brother's about to move to San Antonio, so I guess I'll have reasons to go there now.
Awesome.
Again.
I'm a history nut, just on the side. I haven't like studied it too extensively, but have you visited the Alamo itself?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's like a rite of passage if you go to public schools in Texas. Doesn't matter if you live 4 hours away; they're going to take you to the Alamo at some point.
Oh, that's fair. I love the engravings on the walls and the inside.
Yeah.
There's like messages. I don't remember what they said at this point, but messages. And I remember I think I tried taking a picture of one of them to send my brother, and they don't like that on the inside.
Yeah.
They don't like you taking pictures at all because it's obviously pretty sacred, I suppose.
They're proud of it, man. Like
Yeah.
I was talking about that Texas pride. That is a staple of like what Texas represents. Texas is a state of people that feel like they hold their own and they are their own boss. And the Alamo is the ultimate picture of that. It's like this is a bunch of people that were disgustingly outnumbered, and the odds were completely against them, and they held their own like just absolute men and women of grace. Unbelievable story is the Alamo.
Absolutely. Yeah, the first time I went there, both times I went there, it was just awesome. I loved it. Very cool.
There's all these Texas-Tennessee ties too. You know, you go back to history. And that's one of the things I love about being in Tennessee. It's like a close cousin of Texas. It's so similar, and a lot of the histories overlap. A lot of Texas history started in Tennessee. Guys like Davy Crockett and people like that. It's a really interesting overlap. Being in Tennessee is so remarkably similar to me to being in Texas.
Interesting. I wouldn't have. It makes sense. They're both pretty southern, pretty not hospitable. Hospitality. A lot of
Hmm.
hospitality. Those are totally opposite words. Hospitable and having hospitality are
Yeah,
opposite. But I can totally see that for sure.
it's fun, man. I need to make my way to Wisconsin. I've never been there. I dated a girl from Oconomowoc one time,
I don't know
um,
where that's at.
which is somewhere over there, but
I'll have to look that
that's
up.
my Wisconsin knowledge.
I've been here about 2 years now. I don't know where Economowalk is. That's
It's
strange.
probably a really small town somewhere.
There's Minocqua,
Okay.
not Economowalk.
Do you feel like you know a lot more about indigenous history since moving to Wisconsin? Do you feel like you've learned something about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. In South Dakota, there's a lot of that. We have some of the biggest reservations there, and the culture's definitely there. And then coming to Wisconsin, I was surprised to see, at least around the college campuses, they've done a really. The river that flows through our campus is the Chippewa River. That's named after the Chippewa tribe. And I think this. I was just reading this on campus. I was walking around, and they have little plaques underneath all the trees to say, what tree is what. There was some big council oak tree, and it said that in that place there was this big grand oak tree that fell down in the 80s, and they had since replanted it with that plaque,
Yeah.
where tribes would meet likely underneath this huge sprawling oak tree to decide, as a council almost, to decide on trade and all sorts of other
Yeah.
things. So there's the Ojibwe tribe, which is right on our campus area, allegedly, right?
Yeah.
And Chippewa, and so totally, yeah, totally in this area. I saw some video, and it's obviously is like third person. Saw a guy talking about the history of it that I can barely remember. That said, the stories said that a lot of tribes originated from this kind of Wisconsin area before going down the river to
Yeah.
spread out and branch across the United States more. So technically, you could almost say it's the origin of many of these tribes, whereas this kind of
Yeah.
Wisconsin area.
That's something I would love to learn a lot more about. That would be, I'm glad that we're doing this because any music lovers that are going to be watching this or listening to this, they're getting a full history lesson right now through two guys that don't exactly know what they're talking about. But
Yeah, totally. You can tell. I'm like, I think this one tribe over here, someone told me from somebody else. But speaking of history and specifically Native Americans, tomorrow I'm talking to a guy, and I'll pull him up for your sake. His name is Shane. Oh, I just had his last name, Bukowski.
okay.
And he has a whole book on Plains Native Americans, and he takes pictures with old tintype photography. Where you
Mm,
take a glass plate, you wash it in some sort of solution, you put it in the old 1800s camera, you open the lens, shut the lens, take it out, take it to a dark room, wash the film in another solution before
yeah.
finally varnishing it until it develops into the old, black and white, grainy
Yeah.
footage. And he has a whole book. I just bought the book. It's on its way. That's why I can't give you the exact information. But I'm talking to him tomorrow, and he
Huh.
made his whole past couple years living in this specific type of photography, specifically photographing Plains Indians.
To that point, I'm surprised at how much I have to say about this. This is actually kind of shocking. You're bringing things out of me I didn't even know were in me. There is a writer here in Nashville who lives just down the street from me is how I met her. But her name is Madeline Keel. I'm gonna be writing some songs with her pretty soon. You should reach out to her because number one, she's a fantastic writer and artist. Number two, she's an otherworldly, incredibly talented painter, and she does pretty much exclusively portraits of Native Americans and like I guess 19th century cowboys.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool. Oh my gosh, that's
and she
awesome.
does these hyper realistic, I guess they're oil paintings of just like close up portraits of them, and they're stunning, man. Like she's one of those people that's just talented in every way. You're like, how are you this creative in this many different ways?
Yeah.
Uh,
What's her
she's
name?
amazing. Madeline Keel.
How do
It's
you spell her last name?
Aiel, and then I think Madeline is just Madeline.
Sure. That's awesome. I'm always asking people, who do you know? Who do you know? Who's someone that you're very much impressed by who could tell me about their whole subject?
She blows
So
me away. Very knowledgeable about that. Plus, I mean, the girl can sing. She's got a voice.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Here, I'll pull up. His name is Shane Bulkowitz. And his photography is incredible. And I'll actually share the screen so you can see it because it's totally up what you were just asking about. It's called KGE. Here we go. Let's see here. So he's originally from Bismarck, North Dakota. So I was like, oh, dude, that's like 3 hours from me back home. That's awesome. And he actually invited me into his studio sometime to see how he does his process. Just because like every Friday or something he has to shoot, which is so cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this.
I know we had a selection of specifically these type of photos. Film.
I love this format of podcasting and interviews and things like that. This is just like, let's talk about anything.
Yeah, truly. Okay, so we have a whole list of works here. I'll pull it up and share my screen so you can see what I'm looking at. I don't have it all the way open yet. But so here he has, this is his general like tintype. It's called tintype or wet plate.
Wow.
There we go. So here one, Crowfoot, Lakota, the great grandson of Sitting Bull. And it's
Oh my gosh.
either done on aluminum or a glass wet plate that he's developed, and as well as a host of other
These are stunning. Oh my god.
Right? And the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my, like I like photography, but this is just otherworldly.
Yeah. There's like some of these concept pieces too. That Man's Great Escape. That's so cool.
Absolutely. And he just did one with Jordan Peterson here, which I thought was pretty.
He shot with Jordan Peterson.
Like
that's insane.
He just did like his last big hit a week ago, and that's where I first found him.
Wait, was he on Peterson's podcast?
He might have been.
He might have been. Because I remember Peterson interviewed somebody recently that did something along these lines. I can't remember if it's the same guy though.
That could be.
Wow. And you're speaking with him, you said tomorrow?
Yep. Wow. I just messaged him on Instagram. Hey, can I give you a call sometime? I'm really interested in your photography. And sure enough, gave me his number, and I called him and just kind of told him what I was into. Wanted to know just more about the what he did. And so he kind of gave me the price range of how much does it cost for the material and how does he go about doing it and what other kind of variations there are of it. And then I said, hey, do you know anyone else who would like to just sit down and talk with this type of photography? And he said, sure.
Oh man, I can't wait to see whatever you guys end up talking about and hopefully getting to listen in on some of that.
Yeah, totally. He has a documentary. He said he hired a film crew to come in and follow him for a year or something, and then they made a film out of that, and it's on Amazon Prime. I don't think it's on Netflix. So I'm gonna check that out. His book's on the way. So
I'm stoked to dig into that. I need to watch his film too. That's crazy.
Right? Just the people, the creatives you meet. It's just nuts.
I gotta say, that's probably something that I've come to appreciate maybe more than anything in the last couple of years since the world has just been nuts, is how incredibly important art is in times of turmoil. Like even like somebody like yourself, you're a big history nerd and you know a lot about how history is, echoed itself throughout the ages. And historically, one of the things that has really gotten cultures through, what's prevailed throughout the ages, has been art. It's been music, it's been painters, it's been sculptors, people like that have made an impact on their culture and inspired people with what they do. And things like this, man, it's when the world is so noisy and complex like it is right now, and you can just kind of tune that out and look at something incredible and marvel in somebody's dedication to a craft. It's like, that's what the human spirit's all about. It's like the world can be this noisy all around us, and then somebody can still tune all that out and make something beautiful. That's so cool.
Absolutely. Blows me away. And I came to the realization recently that I can't do everything. I want to do everything. There's not enough hours in the day. I'm trying. I can't do it.
Yep.
But I can talk to people who are doing things I'm really interested in, and they can tell me all about it.
Yep.
And that's good enough for now.
And it's almost better because you can focus on what you do well, and then you can still kind of share in some of the joy of this work that other people are doing just by talking to them about it,
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly. I couldn't have put it any better. Honestly, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Awesome. So music.
Yeah.
I never would have guessed after watching all your videos that you were totally into history, photography, and all this. I mean, social media, you only get a face value.
Yeah.
Look at somebody. Let's talk about creativity, I suppose. What's your creative process like? What's your creative process like? Start from there, top down.
Man, I would say it ebbs and flows throughout time. It has to change. I'm the kind of person that is I'm very system oriented. I like to have a structure and a system in my life, but I can't stick to the same structure for too long. So I'll find something that works for 2, 3 months at a time, and then it stops working, and then I overhaul the whole system and create something new. Um, right now, the current creative process for me, I've been struggling immensely to write my own music, which is something that I've usually been more comfortable doing. I've been very comfortable writing solo my whole life. And it's one of the things when I moved to Nashville that was like a culture shock for me is everybody wants to co-write. And I had to wrap my brain around that for a couple of years. And now it's kind of almost Uno reversed, and I'm struggling to write alone because life is so hectic that it's hard to figure out what I have to say. And it's not until I start getting into conversations with people, very much like you and I are talking now.
Yeah.
I'll set up co-writes with people, like even like Madeline, I'll be writing with her next week, and who knows what we'll talk about the first 30, 45 minutes. And then something will come out of a conversation that's really beautiful, and all of a sudden I have something to say. And that doesn't really happen so much anymore in just like the courts of my own mind. It's almost like I've gone through my own thought loops so many times that there's nothing new to extract there. You start talking to new people though, and you get all these ideas and you have this rush of creativity. So for me, it's about speaking to as many people as possible. And then just sort of immersing myself in a creative space. One of the weirder things that I've started doing, my roommates have been making fun of me for it, is right now I'm inside of my garage basement that I've converted over the last couple of years. And there's this old beat up leather couch over to my right over there. And I've just been sleeping in my studio every night instead of my bedroom because it motivates me to work on something creative until I go to sleep and then wake up and pick it right back up where I left off. And sometimes that's not healthy. Sometimes it's not good to immerse yourself that much, but right now it is. So it's a different creative process. I would say I'm very focused at the moment at figuring out what I have to say, and that looks a lot like talking to people, and a lot less like spending too much time in my own head.
Wow, I can totally relate to that. I'll tell you what I did that's I think very similar to that conversation piece that this totally reminded me of. Total writer's block in terms of writing lyrics for forever. I think at least a year. I mean, I could come up with licks, hooks, sing-songy stuff, no problem. And maybe that's just because I did everything but write lyrics for years, and now I'm like brand new at it, or when I started playing guitar. And I wrote like one song, and then nothing for forever. But then the past month or so, I started typing, like stories, like for fun. I was reading, just being creative, typing, and out of nowhere, it was just flying out of me, musical lyrics. So it was almost like that conversational piece that found that part of the brain that connected the 2 points that before were falling short, but typing, 1,000 words, 1,000 words a night. Yeah. All of a sudden, and that seems like exactly the same thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's one of the cool things, man. Nashville has changed how I think about creativity in every single view possible. And it's mainly the collaboration aspect of Nashville. Nashville is collaboration city. Nobody's a lone wolf here. If you are, you don't exist. You have to work with people.
Wow.
And that was so hard for me to wrap my head around for a couple of years. And now I see why it is the way that it is. Because you do, like as a creative person, as a human being in general, like you ebb and flow. You change over time, and things that were strengths normally, you go through periods of time where those aren't strengths anymore, and you have to, adapt, and you have to find people that can pick up the slack where you are lacking, because you're always going to be lacking somewhere, and sometimes that changes. For the longest time, I was a guy that only wrote ballads, and my lyrics were really good. I could write a really good ballad with some really poignant lyrics, and I felt really good about what I had to say lyrically, but maybe the songs weren't musically as interesting as they could have been. Right now, I think it's the opposite. I'm very inspired musically, very inspired on the guitar, but I can't figure out what's worth talking about. So I'm meeting with people that I know that have brilliant lyrical minds, and I'm bringing my guitar riffs to them, and I'm saying, hey, I've been sitting on this riff for 3 months, and I can't for the life of me figure out what to do with it. Please help me.
Thank you. It's so nice to hear somebody else say that,
Yeah.
because that's been me for forever. I
Mhm.
mean, riffs all over, just iPhone, hooks
Yep.
that are, sit down and record. But the lyrics, that's so refreshing to hear somebody say that, because I totally get it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the quintessential story of Elton John, right? Him
Hmm.
and his writing partner. It was like Elton. All he did was write piano licks and grooves. That's what he had, and he hardly wrote any of his own lyrics. He just knew what he was great at. He was a great performer, and he was a great piano player. Um, and he knew where his bread was buttered, and he stuck with that formula, and it worked for him for decades and decades, and it still is.
I love his recent stuff with Charlie Puth. Have you? I
Yeah.
don't know if you listen to it, if that's your style. It's pretty
Yep.
pop oriented, but I've really enjoyed that.
Was funny. Pop music was my first love. I ended up in country, but pop music was the first genre I ever really loved. Aside from maybe blues, I think I fell in love with the blues first because I played guitar. But as I started learning about songwriting, it was like I loved catchy melodies. I've always loved catchy melodies, um, and I really think it's cool where the music industry is heading right now, where lyrical depth and pop music are kind of coexisting more than they ever did. Um, I think for a long time people felt like they had to choose one or the other, and now you're starting to see pop musicians, people like JP Sachs or whoever it is,
Yeah,
Julia Michaels,
definitely.
artists like that have a lot to say, and it's really poignant, but it's also like ear candy infectious.
I was wondering what artist you meant by that, and that was a great example. J.P. Sachs and Julia Michaels. If the world
Yeah.
was ending, great
Mm-hmm.
one.
Talk about a like stars aligning moment.
Oh my gosh,
That song couldn't have come out
perfect.
at a better time in all of history.
Seriously.
And it wasn't on purpose either. It just like it was a coincidence, which is insane.
I'm trying to think. When I first heard that song, was it fall of 2019?
First time I heard it was March of 2020, right
Oh,
in the heat of it.
jeez. Okay, I'm gonna have to look up when it actually came out, because it came out a little bit before, but not much.
Yeah. I'm always late to those, so you might have heard it before me. That wouldn't surprise me.
I was on a pop. I was on a pop uh, wave for a while before getting more into country, similar to you. Um,
Yeah.
Release date October 2019.
Yeah.
So,
Couldn't
but
have been
then
any
that,
better.
and that spring, you know. I remember looking at that video. Maybe had a million views for a while. It really wasn't too huge, and I was like, "Dang, this song is good. Like, this is really hitting
Yep.
it." But then, obviously, once the spring hit of 2020, it was like, "Come on."
Yeah. Everybody's cooped up in their apartments, not knowing what's going on, and they're listening to that song and they're like, whoa.
I'm gonna look up the count actually too. Um, just with views. What's it at? Is it over a billion? No, it's not. Okay,
It's got to be.
it's 158 million. Um,
Really?
which is yeah, I guess, I don't know.
No way.
158 million. Yeah, 36. Yeah, I
Let
think
me
it did
see.
them did them
I don't
both
know why I
justice.
don't believe you, but I just don't believe you for
Yeah,
sure.
sure. Well, I prefaced it with, "I'm sure it's a billion," so you were expecting a billion, but like,
Well, so I'm looking at you. Are you looking at YouTube?
yeah, it's just YouTube. Yeah, this isn't
Okay, I'm looking at
streams.
Spotify streams. Spotify streams were at 771 million.
That makes sense. Yeah, I forget sometimes. Yeah, Spotify's obviously where it's at. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember back in the day when I used to go to YouTube for just my music. I was like, I gotta buy this song, but I can listen to it on YouTube. Sometimes I fall into that pit, but
You ever
Spotify.
do the YouTube to MP3 converter just to get some songs on your iPod?
I had an MP3 player, early 2000s, and I would record just like TV commercials when they would play
Yeah.
the what's it called, music video. And so obviously I'd miss the first 10 seconds, but then I just listened to the rest, three-fourths of the song over and over and over on like a little MP3
I
that could
remember
record 32 songs.
when I was a kid, I didn't have like a credit or a debit card or anything like that. But I wanted to download music to my iTunes library and I couldn't because I didn't have any way of paying for it. Plus, I was a kid and didn't have money at all. And so what I did was I would go on YouTube and I would do the YouTube to MP3 converter, put that on my iPod, and my entire library of music, the way that would convert the file, it would just be like the whole URL link as the title of the song.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't even know what song was like I was clicking on. It was just I would click on a URL and just think, well, I downloaded it, so I probably like this song. And that was how I listened to music when I was like 12, 13 years old.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that would have been early 2000s probably, about 2010 or so. Yeah, we're about the
Yep.
same age. You just turned 24. I turned 24 this summer. So
Hey, happy early birthday, man.
thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Creative processes are fascinating to me. It's
Yeah.
just and the way it comes out. That it's just so cool to hear because they're so similar and we all have similar challenges. It seems like.
Yeah.
What
And
is?
also, man, another thing that Nashville taught me is creativity has become a lot less of a need to be inspired kind of thing. I don't work on an inspired basis necessarily anymore. I work to create inspiration, um, but I don't work only when I'm inspired. I work every single day, and that's another kind of tenet of Nashville. It's you treat. I think probably one of the best ways I've ever heard it described was by Ben Rector. He talks about creativity like fishing, and you can kind of know when the better times to go out and fish are. You know that you don't want to fish when it's noisy or when it's bright daylight. Like you know that. So you have a general idea of when it's best to throw your line out, but you really don't know if you're going to catch anything special. You don't. And your best chance of catching something special is to fish way more than other people fish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and maybe go fish on bodies of water that people don't normally fish on, where there's less traffic. And so there's ways that you can increase your chances, but really creativity is like an odds game. That's how I look at it. It's the more you go to the well, the more often you're going to strike, something. And that's kind of how I look at it at this point. And writing is my day job now, so it's all I do. And I've stopped relying on this need to wake up like I can take over the world every day because that's just not reliable.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, I'm just like, all right, if it's a hook today and it's a really bad hook, at least it's something, and it'll probably turn into something else someday.
That's a great fishing analogy. I don't know if that was on purpose, but catching a hook.
Yeah,
Hook to that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not on purpose at all, but thank you for
It's
making it seem
totally.
like.
I get it. I started committing to X amount of just TikTok videos a day, which actually translate pretty well to creating a hook here and creating a verse here, and
Yep.
just sitting down and just making myself do that came up with much better results than just I got nothing right now.
Yeah. What kind of TikTok content do you make?
Right now I'm just covering songs, clips of my own that I'm writing, just
Yeah.
music, acoustic guitar, and harmonica. So
Hey.
I got the good old head mount. You can play and strum and do all that.
Yep.
So right now it's just that. Occasionally I go through a few stints of funny, dumb stuff. Right now it's just kind of my side hustle of I just like writing. Just like writing,
Yeah.
like playing. So that's all that is.
I love that.
Yeah. And kind of just putting whatever I have out there for the day. Just whatever hook I want to sing, clip I want to cover.
Yep.
Your Instagram though is really busy. You're always kicking off, and I love it.
Dude, I have a really weird relationship with Instagram. I've always really liked it. For all of the flaws that I have, I guess with all the gripes that I have with Instagram, and I think, there's certainly an extent that social media has not been so great for us. Instagram is a really fun platform. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've always enjoyed it, and I like to share myself on there at least to a certain degree, maybe a little bit more than I should to a certain degree. But that's always been fun for me. I like having a platform that I can kind of like document and publish. This is who I was at this point in time, and
Yeah.
that's fun. I don't know.
I don't know. Sometimes I think back to what I've seen Gary Vee talk about, where I don't know. I can't even think of the line, but it's just that unrelenting publishing of who you are.
Yeah.
That I love because everyone's gonna find out who you are anyways.
Yep.
With how much we're online, unless you just shut everything down.
Yep.
All right, fine. Here's who I am. Here's everything I do.
Yep.
Which a couple years ago would have been just crazy to think about. They'd be like, "Who are you putting all that online? Like, what is going on?" But what do we care?
Yeah, and it's what's the worst thing that happens? Either you say something that proves to be not wise, and then you learn something from it, or people really like what you had to say, and and I guess the third option is people just ignore it altogether, and that's fine. Whatever. At least you got it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I view songwriting as well. It's like, all right, at the end of the day, either no one's going to resonate with this and they're just going to drop it and ignore it, but at least I got something out of the process of making it. or it's really going to connect, and that's going to do all sorts of cool things for all sorts of people. You know, it's
Absolutely.
and who cares? I'm going to be writing songs for the rest of my life, whether people ever care a whole lot or not. So might as well be publishing them. Might as well be putting them out.
Totally. Absolutely. I once I adopted a similar mentality of just doing it regardless. So
Yep.
much nicer. It's so much nicer.
Yep.
There were times when I would only post the one time I nailed a song front to back, and that was miserable. I took way too long, took a million takes, wasn't happy with it, was never good enough. Here we are.
That's a radical overhaul, actually, in how I'm planning on putting out music. I was working with some people in Nashville who I really loved for a while. And we ended up parting ways recently based off of just some disagreements about how we wanted to pursue putting out music. And I don't think they're wrong by any means. We just had a different vision. They have an approach where, they wanted me to only be putting out music if we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is a hit song. This could really do something. My argument has always been to that point, which I get. I get the quality thing. I understand it. I have sympathy for that argument. But my impression of how art should be made and how art connects is it's again like the fishing analogy. It's the same thing. It's like throwing your bait out there. Um, Put things out there that you think are good because I don't really think anybody has any clue whether a song is a hit or not. I really don't. Like you throw a song out into the world, people in Nashville, some of them are going to tell you like, oh yeah, this is a hit, this isn't a hit. Nobody really knows. I really believe that. I think the best you can know is that a song is well put together and it's a good enough song. And then past that, whether it's great or whether a lot of people are going to love it and connect with it, that is utterly out of your hands completely. And so for me, it's like, let me put out as much good music as I can possibly put into the world instead of trying to sit around and cherry pick what I think might be considered great music. Because I would rather be moving forward than just sitting around trying to make the perfect move and diminishing my odds.
Hmm. I think that fishing analogy fits perfectly. You can. How could you only go out fishing when you know you're going to catch something?
Yeah.
You can't. You can't.
Sure.
You can bait the hook, go out to the right locations, go to where people aren't, the whole thing, and still, that's awesome.
And you talk to people that love fishing, they don't go fishing for the catches. They go
Yeah,
to go fishing. Like people that love fishing go
there you
fishing
go.
because they want to sit on the boat and throw the line out. That's it. That's the fun for them.
Oh, I'm gonna keep that analogy forever now. That's such a great analogy. I love it. There's so many ways to look at it that corresponds directly to music. Yeah, my dad's a huge fisherman. Huge, love doing it, just as much as he loved playing music like we do. So I
Yeah.
totally get it. I grew up. I never liked fishing really, but I've done it some, and I agree still.
I think the only reason I never took fishing is because I wasn't very good at it. I didn't have the patience for it when I was younger. And I think now maybe I'd probably have more patience than I did when I was a kid. And a good buddy of mine lives out in Montana and fishes, and that's like his life. That is all he does. And he keeps inviting me to go out there and do like a real, actual fishing excursion with him because he goes on these like intense. I don't even know what he does. He like whitewater rafts to these really difficult locations to get to, and then he fishes out there and does all his research and everything. I think I need to go do something like that because I think that would be a great lesson in patience and then also just a really cool story to tell.
Oh, that sounds sick. I've been up in Canada to fish once, and it's nuts.
Yeah.
It's it's wild. I can't even describe it. I don't have enough knowledge on fishing to say how or what it was done. It's just a different experience to be out there in the wild. Black bears walking around.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Totally wild.
Yeah.
Um, tell me about your history. Growing up, writing music. Where'd you start? Why? When? What do you play other than guitar, if anything? Sing.
So the short rundown is I started playing music when I was about 10. Picked up Guitar Hero like a lot of people our age did around then.
Yes, I did.
My dad is a guitar player, a really good one. He just doesn't play very much, which always surprised me about him. He had gotten really good at the guitar when he was a teenager and then just never really played after that, but still had it. And I was begging him to come watch me play Guitar Hero all the time. Finally, he did. He went up to watch me, and I was like, "Look at me! I'm playing Through the Fire and Flames." And
Yep.
He was kind of laughing about it, and he picks up his real guitar and starts playing some of the things I was playing on Guitar Hero. And I remember like dropping the controller and just being like, wait, that's way cooler than this. Why have I never done that? And it was pretty much over for me at that point. I decided to pick up some of the songs on Guitar Hero. First song I ever learned was Pride and Joy by Stevie Ray Vaughan, who was my first musical love. And from there, it's really cool. I actually just got this poster at a vintage shop a couple days ago. It's a concert poster for Stevie Ray Vaughan and the Stray Cats. And Stevie Ray Vaughan was the first one I ever learned. And the second song I ever learned was Stray Cat Strut by the Stray Cats. And I just happened to find this poster of a concert they did together in the 80s.
Wow.
Which is really cool. I found it on my birthday, too, which was the other weird thing about it.
That's a crazy list of coincidences. Holy cow.
Yeah, I was like, I have to buy this. There's no way I'm not getting it. So that was kind of the beginning for me. And from there, I fell in love with guitar and ended up discovering John Mayer through the Stevie Ray Vaughan rabbit hole because he idolized Stevie Ray. And I realized, oh, you can be a really great guitar player and you can write songs. And so I started doing that, became a huge John Mayer fan, and tried to be John Mayer for several years of my life. And over the course of high school, joined bands, ended up on some singing reality TV shows, ended up going to a art school in high school, all sorts of weird things like that, and made a couple records when I was a teenager. And at probably around 14, 15, just realized I was like, this is it for me. I don't see myself ever doing anything else. And there was never really a moment that I looked back from there. Ended up going briefly to music school when I was a couple years out of high school. And
they'll take the wind out of your sails.
No, yeah, it can.
Did it? I mean, for me, I spent a year going to college for music, and I was like, not my thing. But
I did it because I didn't know what else to do. I had gotten out of high school early. I graduated a year early because I was like, I'm going to hit the ground running, this music thing, and then realized nothing was going to happen in my town that I was in. I was just, living in small town Texas at the time, and I had no idea what to do. I was about to be 19, and I was like, I guess I'll just go to Berkeley. It was the only school I applied for, and I got in. So I went to Berkeley for 2 semesters, learned a lot, and then just kind of realized, I was like, man, I think I've just been biding my time to move to Nashville. I'd been to Nashville when I was 16 and kind of knew when I was here that I'd end up here. And I don't know that I felt like I was ready because it was a scary city for me from the outside in. And then after 2 semesters at Berkeley, I was like, I'm never going to make this happen if I don't just go for it. I have to go move there and just immerse myself. Got some really wise advice from my parents, and they were like, hey, if you're going to go to Nashville, before you start diving into the music industry, just make a life there. Like, make friends, give yourself a reason to stay, even if you don't succeed. And that was probably the best advice they gave me. I spent the first year in Nashville not even making music, really, just kind of playing guitar and trying to make a life here that I would love and fall in love with. And that worked. Ended up making tons of friends and loving my life here. And once I had that security and I knew I was never leaving, it was time for me to start diving into music, and decided at that point I would start making country music because it's Nashville, and fell in love with the genre. And that's where I've been for the last several years.
Wow. So it's funny you mentioned John Mayer. You went to Berkeley for a year.
Yeah, and my plan was to one-up him. He did 2 semesters. I wanted to do 3. That was my plan. I went to Berkeley knowing I would stay, but I thought I would do 1 more than him, and I ended up doing 2, just like he did.
Magic. I love that. What year were you at Berkeley? Because I met a guy here in Wisconsin who went to Berkeley for guitar.
Okay, I was there 2017, the spring and fall of 2017.
Okay, this guy he says he was there in 2018. His name is Sean Jordan.
Okay.
I was in the sauna in one of the gyms downtown. This guy had a sick mustache, and I think I had one at the time too. I was like, dude, I like your mustache. And sure enough, we started talking. He worked at a music shop here in town, and he said he went to Berkeley. And I was like, sick. I want to learn some more guitar.
Great at running into people and figuring out what they're all about. You're good at that. Yeah,
I guess so. And it's funny, he just said he wants to go to my school for neuroscience now. For whatever reason, he wanted to go back to school. So similar fields, I guess.
Is your school like notorious for its neuroscience program, or?
I have no idea. I'll be honest. I don't know. I know it's probably good. It's a good sized university, but maybe 10,000 students roughly. Town of about 60,000. So it's enough. I don't know. I haven't dove into school enough to know that, oh, this school is ranked so and so for their programs or whatever.
Sure.
It's tough being a musician going into a strict academic environment.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work, and it's hard to switch between your right and left brain, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's weird. I've heard people say, oh, people that I know in music are great at math. I am not.
Yep.
I just I don't know. So,
I find it tends to be the people that are really good at like classical music and jazz that are mathematically inclined. But you said you did jazz drums, didn't you?
yeah, I grew up doing jazz drums a ton and eventually learned. I was a drumline instructor for a while, so I got all into the notes, especially all the super technical, all the
Yeah.
4-part snare, tenor, bass, quad, all of that, and doing quite a bit of writing on that, which I guess you could consider classically trained
Yeah.
in that sense. But yeah, still this day algebra just sucks.
I'm with you, man. My senior year of high school, I paid a friend of mine $30 to take my final for me because I was online schooled. And
Nice.
my very last math test I ever took, I didn't even take it. I just paid a friend of mine. I said, "Give me an 85." Teacher won't think anything of it. That was it.
Maybe I'll take that part out of our interview then.
Hey, no,
While
it's statute of limitations. I'm good, but not recommending it. I'm just saying it's what I did.
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. That's hilarious. But yeah, here we are. What are you looking forward to in the future? Where do you want to go with this? Is it just keep going until the next big break? Do you have some concrete plans laid out of, if not Nashville within this time, then here and here by the spring or the fall?
Man, I don't know that I have much of a plan B. So there's no plan B. I think where my focus in the music industry in Nashville, there's a couple of things that I'm working on, sort of on the DL that have a little bit less to do with my own artistry and a little bit more to do with what I believe I can do to provide value for the rest of the music community. Working with an incredible programmer right now to develop an app that I think could really change the way that music is consumed. So that's a little side project that
Ooh.
I'm putting a surprising amount of effort into. It's something that an idea that fell into my lap that I didn't think I was going to get anybody on board with, and ended up convincing this world-class programmer to work with me. So that's one project I'm working on. Um,
What's the idea behind it, if you can divulge anything about it? What's the premise?
I
What's
can say
the
very
angle?
little about it at the moment, other than it's a way to give fans a lot more buy-in to the music that they love
Sure.
and to feel a lot more connected to the music that they like to listen to than just streaming it on Spotify. Um, so that's the most I can say right now, but
Sure.
it's a way to draw listeners in and give artists something they can give to their fans other than please listen to my music. It's adding an extra layer, an extra dimension to that, which is something that
I'm sensing NFTs. I could be right or wrong, and I suppose you couldn't confirm or deny, but that's what my
I
first thought goes to
I
is
can't go into
NFTs.
things, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
For sure.
Uh,
For sure.
and I think it's going to be special. That's going to be developed over the course of this year. And of course, once that's ready to go, I'll be talking about it everywhere I go.
Right.
And it's cool because that works in tandem with exactly what I want to do with my music. Is I want to provide value to people that enjoy music. Um, so for me, I've put together a little recording budget. This year, I'm going to be putting together mostly as big of a catalog of recorded music as I can possibly put together, and that's going to look like releasing as much of that as I want to release. Kind of the way that I was describing to you a few minutes ago. It's like throw it out there, and if you love it, put it out there, see what happens. And then aside from that, I think I really want to focus on my career as a songwriter. Um, it's what I do for a living at this point, and I would like to continue that. Uh, of course, do things on as big a scale as possible. Maybe secure a publishing deal here in the next year. That's a big focus of mine, and um, just become as prolific of a writer as I can possibly be, and see where those songs take me. I think it's hard to say where a song is going to take you, which is kind of the adventure and the excitement of all of it. That's why I chose what I chose as a career, because I like that I don't necessarily have a concrete idea of where it's all headed. I know I want to do it really well, and I know that I want it to be as good and as excellent as it can be, but I mean, God knows where it's going to take me.
Absolutely. Yeah. How can you know? That's nuts. Um. Oh, I was thinking of something. artists. You mentioned J.P. Sachs and your pop influences, your original. What are your country influences now? Who do you put at the top of your ticket for? I mean, you could probably categorize them in many different ways. From lyrics are over here, but then this artist does hooks very well. And tell me something about that. Where do you rank certain musicians and why?
So I would say my gateway into really falling in love with country music was a little bit more the folky guys. So people like Jason Isbell, fell in love with Jason Isbell's songwriting about 3 years ago. And that was my first kind of introduction. Of course, had grown up in Texas and was exposed to George Strait. My parents were huge Eagles fans, and their early work, their country stuff that they did in the early days, I think really influenced my writing more than I thought it had. Rustin Kelly is another guy. He's probably my second favorite artist of all time, right behind John Mayer. Mm-hmm. And he calls himself Dirt Emo Country, which I think is a hilarious genre name, but it's pretty accurate. These guys like Keith Urban, such a great guitar player. Mm-hmm. I wish I could chicken pick like Brad Paisley could. I think if I could integrate more of that kind of stuff into my guitar playing, I would love to. Those are kind of the guys that really stand out. And right now there's a class of female country artists in Nashville particularly that are blowing me away. And they're all like my age. And I would say I've fallen more in love with the genre because of the music that these people that are my age and younger are making right now, which is blowing me away. There's this girl, Carter Faith, that I'm just, she's so incredible. She's got kind of this earlier Casey Musgraves vibe to her, this psychedelic country sort of feel to it. But her lyrics and her voice are just so, they exude emotion, and I'm just absolutely enthralled with it.
Okay. Yeah, Morgan, I got it right here on Instagram.
Yeah, she's unbelievable. Follow her. She's hopefully going to put out a lot more music soon. Morgan Wade is another one I'm really into. Haley Witters. These female country artists in Nashville, like, I feel like, I hate to say this because I don't like to pigeonhole people like this, but I think the females in Nashville are innovating more than the males are. I'm hearing a lot of the same old from a lot of male country artists here in Nashville. Of course, there's people, Hardy and Ernest and Morgan Wallen, guys like that are really doing their own thing. But there's so much amazing stuff coming out right now that the genre is shifting rapidly in what I think is a really cool way.
Is it, sometimes these are hard to put into words, is it the vibe that they're putting out, or is it lyrics specifically? What would you say they're innovating more of that you're hearing?
I would say it's the sonics. It's what they're doing with their production. It seems like real instruments are making a comeback, which is great. I love that. It's cool that we've gone down this like 20-year or 30-year experimentation route with production and using electronic instruments, and I'm glad that that's a part of music now. But bringing real drums and real guitars back to the forefront and using all that other stuff as a supplement instead of the main thing, I think is making a fashionable comeback in Nashville, and I'm excited about that. I think that's a good thing. And you mix that with just that classic three chords and the truth sort of lyricism.
Yeah.
You know, almost like we were talking about J.P. Sachs and Julia Michaels, this pop lyrical sensibility that's like very honest and not overly colorful. I feel that there's a lot of that in country music, but it's just got its own sort of Southern flair to it. I think Carter Faith in particular is one that she's done an incredible job of taking whimsical ideas or classic, almost like country poetic notions and then making them into something that's a little bit more. She's somehow made the classic modern. She's done a great job of taking classic country and making it modern.
Very interesting. I have a name I can think of that's probably doing something similar. Have you heard of Maggie Antone?
No.
On TikTok? Okay, mostly on TikTok is where I've seen her stuff. And yeah, another girl about our age who seems to be going back to that older country style, but it just sounds modern. And I'm in love with it. It's so cool. Such a great sound, unique sound. So I followed, what's her name? Carter Faith. So I'm excited to check her out.
Yeah, man. She's awesome. Got her newest EP just blows me out of the water. She has a song called Lasso. I don't know that I've ever heard anything like it production-wise. It's so interesting. And then her songs, the biggest one I think is called Joyride. It was the #1 mix reference that we're using right now for my newest song that I'm going to be putting out. So I'm
Is that on
feeling from her.
is her stuff on Spotify here? Oh yeah, is Lasso?
Lasso's on that EP. Yeah, I forget the name of the EP.
Okay, sure. Let love be love.
Yep, yep.
Awesome.
She is stupidly talented, and it looks like her song "Joyride" is blowing up because it has 1 million more streams than it did a week ago.
Really? Oh yeah, Joyride is here. I'll pull up. I'll pull up Spotify. I wonder if I share my screen, will you be able to hear it? Via.
We'll find out.
You might not. I don't think you'll be able to. But I'll pull up.
Yeah. I'm a massive fan. Pipe Dream is probably my favorite song of hers.
Pipe Dream.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Awesome. I'll check that out as well. That's so cool. I love finding new artists like that. And that's a great niche that I found on TikTok that I guess I haven't heard people talk about. So it's cool to see you've seen it as well. In Nashville, it's happening for real. Very cool.
Yeah, man, it's a creative mecca here, man. People are so brilliant. I just feel lucky to be living in a time. It's like you hear about the LA Strip in the '80s, and you hear about all these different creative hubs of history, the painters of the the 1700s in France and things like that. It feels like this is that, but for country music now. So I'm just glad that I'm here for it.
Wow, that's fascinating. It'll be so cool to look back and be able to conceptualize in a time frame what this did.
Mm-hmm.
How far are you from Dallas? I guess, wait, no, you're in Nashville. You're not in Texas, though.
Yeah. So when I was living in Texas, I was about 3 hours from Dallas.
Sure.
I'm actually going to be in Dallas, though, in 2 weeks, doing Larry Joe Taylor Fest. They're having a songwriter showcase over in Stephenville.
Give me the date on that.
April 3rd.
Oh, okay, I'll just miss you. I'm going for spring break to Dallas.
Really?
Next week, yeah. It's a leadership conference by Jocko Willink.
Oh, cool.
This thing, Echelon Front, so totally not music related, but me and my brother headed down there. I'd love to write with you sometime. And I'm sure you could probably even do it over Zoom if you're free or anything, but I would love it.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sick. When you're starting out writing with people, where do you even start? Is it, hey, just find a riff, jam on it for a while,
I think you have to in Nashville. I think it's the only way to co-write. You have to come in with an idea, at least a concept. And pretty much every writer in Nashville keeps a book of ideas that come to them throughout time. And I'll have my notes app that's full of titles or just little concepts that I think would be interesting. And usually we will bounce those things off of each other and end up landing on something that is a hybrid of 2 different ideas. I feel like 9 times out of 10, that's how it comes. I'll be like, I had this idea. And then a co-writer will say, oh, I had an idea that's kind of like that. And then we end up making a new idea out of those 2 that's kind of both of them wrapped up in one. And that's how you can write a song with somebody that both of y'all are equally enthused about.
Okay.
I've found that 9 times out of 10, that's how it works. So I show up with a lyrical idea or a guitar idea. Sometimes it's just a musical idea. I had a great write a couple days ago with some friends, and it was exactly what I was saying earlier. I just had this riff that I've been sitting on for 3 weeks, and I was like, man, I love this riff, but I don't know what to do with it. And they knew exactly what to do with it. So you just can't go into a write empty-handed. You have to have some idea of some sort that somebody can bounce off of.
Right.
Because otherwise, it's like you're playing a ping pong game without a ping pong ball. Like you can sit there and like swing him, but there's no ball to hit. So show up with a.
Yeah, totally. I get that. That's awesome. Where are we at here? I'm blanking out.
Probably need to wrap up here in just a second too.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll show you some TikToks. Just the same thing, like 20-second ideas that I've played that I would love your opinion on. What it makes you think of, what you could add, take away to it, if it's anything neat at all. It's just gonna be acoustic guitar, harmonica.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just love your opinion on it. So, yeah.
Do it, man. Let's collaborate. Let's make it happen.
Sick. Awesome. We can schedule that out. What time are you usually free? What's your schedule usually like? during the week, weekend, between your music?
I usually like to write in the kind of later mornings on weekdays. So I typically schedule writes weekdays around 11. But I am flexible. So
Awesome. Cool. Go ahead and for recording's sake, give yourself a shout out. What's your social media handles? What are you doing? What are you looking forward to? All of that.
yeah. So number one, thank you for doing this and having me on, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you about everything under the sun.
Hmm.
And you guys can check me out if you want to at Brooks Huntley Official on Instagram, Brooks Huntley on TikTok. Those are kind of the two that I'm most active on. And aside from that, stream my music on Spotify, Brooks Huntley. I've got two singles out, or I guess three singles right now, one older one. And I've got 4 songs already recorded, ready to go over the next few months once I figure out a release plan. So there's a lot more coming. And just be on the lookout for all that. It's going to be fun. And I think if you guys keep a close eye out, you might get first wind of this new idea for this app that I'm developing too. And I think it's something that fans of music are going to want to be a part of on the early stages. So keep an eye out for it.
Sick. Rock on. All right, that's the